Welcome back to the Mike and Andrew Show. I'm Andrew Serwick here, of course, again with Mike Meredith. Mike, playoff weekend. What a weekend it was. A lot of crazy stuff happening. But how are you doing this afternoon or this evening?
Pretty good, man. Yeah, it was a crazy wild card weekend, man.
That it was. So let's get into it. Starting with the Saturday games, we had the Texans hosting the Browns, and boy, the Texans took care of business in this one, 45-14. Um, One of Houston's biggest margins of victory all season. Um, CJ Stroud just looked insane, like he has really all season. 274 yards, three touchdowns on just 16 completions. Nico Collins getting one of those touchdowns, of course. Um, just a very, very solid game from Houston. On the other side of the ball, the biggest problem that Cleveland had, especially lately, was turnovers, and they turned the ball over a ton in this game, with Joe Flacco, of course, having two interceptions in this game.
Yeah, the Texans defense, man, took it to Flacco, man. Saw all the memes, man. Just they're gonna put Joe Flacco into retirement. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Like they've just beat the shit up on Flacco, man. Multiple pick sixes. Stroud looked great. He's looking like that next up and coming young quarterback. And yeah, Texans, man, big win for him.
Yeah, big win. They have a big game this weekend, or this upcoming weekend, in the divisional round against Baltimore. We'll get into that in on Thursday's episode. But yeah, huge win for Houston. They look really good. They are hot right now, and man, impressive win. The other game, Saturday night, Chiefs hosting the Dolphins. The Chiefs win 26-7. Counting the wind chill in this game, it was the second coldest game in NFL history. It's tied for the third most if you don't factor in the wind chill for this game. But that said, Chiefs looked somewhat decent given the conditions that they had. A lot of drop passes, but well, that's just the Chiefs for you. But I will say, it was cold, so catching the ball was kind of a tough. Tua, big game, big moment. He did not show up whatsoever in this game. Miami, just as a whole, did not look good. They never. This team never. I mean, historically, never looks good when they have to play in cold games. I mean, you could go back to the Dan Marino years, and when they were in cold environments, they did not perform. Um, and Kansas City, they looked really good. Obviously, the viral play of Mahomes' helmet cracking after taking a hit because it was that cold outside, and obviously all the memes of Andy Reid with his frozen mustache. But overall, just a very good game from Kansas City. Obviously, defensively, they came up huge, only holding Miami in that explosive offense to 7 points.
Yeah, Miami. A lot of people were saying Miami looks lifeless and they look like frauds because they had like one win all year against a team above 500. And I will say with Miami, it's tough, man, because people are like, well, Miami needs the circumstance to just be right and they need everything to be clicking. But, man, they're playing in the second coldest game ever, man. Got to cut them a little slack, but still, they still got improvements to make. Tua's definitely regressed since he started the season. Definitely doesn't look as strong. But Kansas City handled business. But again, kind of a fluky game with all the stuff that was going on. And I will say that I watched all the wild card games this weekend. This was probably the worst one to watch, even though there was, of course, the memes of it being cold and stuff. Just not much to this game. It was over pretty quickly, in my opinion. The Dolphins just did not have it in them.
No, I think this game went pretty quick just because everyone just wanted to get the fuck out of there because it was so damn cold, and I don't blame them. Sunday, ah, man,
Mm.
just ah,
Hey, can I just say one thing real quick, man?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's, there's three things in life: death, taxes, and the Cowboys choking.
yeah, yeah. Cowboys hosting the Packers. Packers win 48-32. Dak Prescott, a pick six and an interception that basically led to at least a minimum of 3 points if the defense was able to stop him from getting a touchdown there. Um, but yeah, uh, leaving the Packers on the 19-yard line after a pick, they're guaranteed points there. That said, the Cowboys defense completely sold. Dak Prescott, chips were down, still just lost everything he possibly could. Just lost his mind. Was not on page with any of his receivers. He threw 41 for 60, 403 yards and three touchdowns in this game, but it just didn't look that impressive from him. Jordan Love, on the other hand, 16 for 21, 272 yards, three touchdowns. Aaron Jones went absolutely off running the ball, 21 carries, three touchdowns, 118 yards. Just absolutely incredible. Um, and yeah, no, Dallas they choke hard in the playoffs as they usually do. Dak Prescott can't win a playoff game to save his life. He's now 2-5 in the playoffs in his career. It's quite embarrassing at this point. People are wondering, is he really that guy now? And he's never been that guy in my mind since year one. But it is what it is there. Yeah, Dallas out of the playoffs, being the heavy, heavy favorite over Green Bay. Green Bay now has a big, big matchup against San Francisco now in the playoffs, so it's going to be very tough game for them. But we'll get into that on Thursday's episode. But yeah, Green Bay very, very impressive in this game against Dallas.
Yeah, what a performance, man. Jordan Love. I mean, people, including myself, wrote him off, man. Before the bye week, they were saying they were thinking about replacing Jordan Love altogether. At that point, they were 3-6, just nothing going. And something happened, man. That bye week, they must have did something to just get clicking, man. They come and they beat the Lions on Thanksgiving. And since then, they had a whole bunch of momentum. And Jordan Love, man, what a crazy game. Uh, Basically perfect game for him, man, and did everything that he could do in that time. Dallas continues to choke, man. I think Mike McCarthy's going to be out of there. Dan Quinn probably as well. Dak is just not it, man. He is just all-time choker, man. And this game was over pretty quickly. Another one, but this one was just more entertaining to watch because it was Dallas losing. It was just so funny, man. And then, like you said, too, Aaron Jones, one of my coworkers, he's a big Packers fan. He let me know before the game even happened that Aaron Jones always goes off against Dallas. So I was already expecting Aaron Jones to have a big game, anyways. But he really went off, man. He basically just beat the Cowboys by himself. Him and Aaron and Jordan Love just basically did everything themselves.
Yeah, they really just took care of business altogether. Those two. Um, Jordan Love, since about the midway point of the season, 22 touchdowns and one interception since. He's been pretty much perfect since the midway point of the season. And Packers, man, they are hot, but man, they got a big, big task, and
Mm-hmm.
their defense is not good, and they have a very, very nice offense that they have to go up against this weekend. And then the other Sunday game, Lions hosting the Rams, get their first playoff win in over 30 years. It's been a long time coming, obviously, for the city of Detroit. Everyone has been wanting the Lions to win a playoff game forever, and they do it finally at home. It's the first time Matthew Stafford ever got to play a playoff game at Ford Field, by the way. Just got to throw a little shade. He got beat up hard in this game.
Mm-hmm.
But Lions win 24-23. Um, Badgley kicked a 54-yard field goal, and he made it, which is surprising given he has like a 20% or something stupid low accuracy outside of 50 yards. But that was actually really the difference maker in the game for the Lions, obviously, scoring only 3 points in the second half. They went up big in the second half. Rams came back, but fall just short. Jared Goff looked really, really good. Amon-Ra St. Brown obviously going off for 110 yards. Sam Laporta played, which was good to see. Matt Stafford, though, on the other side of the ball, he looked really, really good for LA, thrown for 367 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. Puka Nacua blew up on Detroit, obviously, 181 yards in this game, but the Lions were able to shut down Cooper Kupp, who was very, very quiet in this game. He was only wide open one time the entire game, which,
That fourth
good to
down
see.
play, yep.
Yep, just that one fourth down play. And outside of that, man, they were able to keep Kupp shut down. And Aaron Glenn dialed up a lot of pressure for Detroit. So, but yeah, just a great win for the Lions. And all it took was sacrificing the Pistons.
Yes, sir. Pistons just won their 4th game out of 40 games this year. What an achievement there. But yeah, man, the Lions, what a game, man. This was a nail biter, man. They both, Goff and Stafford, played well. The offense for Detroit played well in the first half, while the defense kind of carried in the second half. And the difference in the game was when the Lions went, they scored touchdowns and the Rams scored field goals. That was the difference, man. The defense held in the red zone. But yeah, Puka Nacua, man, I'm going to say it right now. That dude's going to have top 5 wide receiver material potential here. That guy's insane. So hard to bring down.
Yeah,
So hard to tackle. Such an explosive player.
yeah.
Can't believe we went 5th round, bro. Like, man, imagine if the Lions would have picked him up in the draft too, man. But yeah, Cooper Kupp we pretty much kept in check. I mean, he had a couple plays, most notably the 4th down, that helped them out. But other than that, not much. I mean, Stafford played his ass off and, was getting beat up. And it was a good performance by the Rams, man. It was getting scary there. They're going to argue, of course, about the holding call on Nacua. Well, Decker got called for a false start that he didn't even do. It's just the refs just hate Decker, man. And then, the Lions have never been on the good side of a call in 30 years, so give us a little break there. But we had just, I think, played better, man. If I had to say, the Lions just played a little bit better of a game.
Yeah, the Lions did play a much better game overall. I mean, yeah, officiating in this game was dog shit, and I'm talking both teams had a lot of missed calls that should have been called on them. And then a lot of, obviously the Taylor Decker call where, I forget who it was on the Rams, jumped off sides, and then Decker obviously reacted, and they called a false start on Decker. Stuff like that. And then obviously some holding calls missed on Detroit, which should have been called that weren't. But overall, man, this game was very, very poorly officiated on both sides. I mean, the Rams had a lot of calls that, they should have been called on them, never got. And then same with the Lions, man. The Lions had a lot of holds that they got away with as well. And a lot of other stupid shit as well for the Lions and the Rams. It was just probably the worst officiated game in over the weekend, in my opinion, just because of how bad everything was there. But yeah, Lions finally getting it done after over 30 years of waiting. Most fans weren't even alive last time they won a playoff game. It's insane to think about. I mean, we weren't alive last time they won a playoff game. So I mean, it's just it's insane to think about. And like I said, all it took was sacrificing the Pistons. Monday we had obviously the Bills and the Steelers playing. That game was supposed to be on Sunday, but due to weather, a lot of snow and stuff, they moved it to Monday night. Monday afternoon, I should say. We had the Bills and the Steelers facing off in Buffalo. The Bills win 31-17. Um, there was it was just pretty much a dominant game from Buffalo. Josh Allen looked really good. He protected the ball, which was most important for him. Obviously, Pittsburgh, they don't have Pickett. They had Mason Rudolph in the game. It was just a bad, combination of things for Pittsburgh. Um, Overall, it's a very, very good game for Buffalo. As far as things for Pittsburgh goes, I don't know what's going to happen with Mike Tomlin. Obviously, we saw what happened in his post-game interview about his contract extension, him just walking off on that. Is he going to be done after this year? We don't know. That's a decision that he always talks with his family. Every year he sits down with his wife and daughters, to see what is best for him. Maybe it is time for him to move on from coaching, man, because he's had a long run in Pittsburgh, very successful run in Pittsburgh, of course. But they're just kind of like in the middle of the road, and they're just stuck now because he's such a good coach, but they just can't get any good draft picks. So they just kind of been stuck in the middle of the road for years now.
Yeah, Steelers have been stuck. Tomlin, though, he actually did announce a few hours ago that he plans to remain with the Steelers. He was asked that question at the podium, and he kind of walked off. I don't know, like if he just wasn't feeling it or what, but he was not having it after that loss. I mean, Bills definitely played how I thought they would. They dominated, but the Steelers actually kept it closer than I thought. To be honest with you, I thought the Steelers would lose by a lot more. It was a one-touchdown game at one point. They were only down one touchdown. They had a chance there, but then lost it, man. So Steelers are they're stuck in that middle, man. They need a quarterback. Kenny Pickett's not the answer. Mason Rudolph is not going to be a long-term solution. Need to draft another quarterback.
Yeah, or somehow be able to finesse a good quarterback from someone, because that's really their biggest holdup is a quarterback right now. And when you keep drafting in the mid rounds of the first round, you're not going to get a good quarterback unless you do a Jordan Love situation, or what Green Bay does in general, just drafting quarterbacks in the mid first round, and then just let them develop for a few years behind a veteran. But outside of that, yeah, I don't know what the Steelers can do. And then lastly, last night, embarrassment for all Philly. Buccaneers hosting the Eagles, winning 32-9 in this game. The Eagles are an absolute mess. Look, Sirianni, I wonder if he's on his hot seat, man, because he doesn't call plays on either side of the ball. When you have a head coach that doesn't do that at the NFL level, it's fine in the college level, right? I mean, Jim Harbaugh doesn't call plays on either side of the ball. But when you do that in the NFL, you're risking a lot. Also, he lost obviously last year both his coordinators. His solution at defense was Matt Patricia, and well, we kind of know how that goes. Especially as Detroit fans, we know how that goes. But Philly just could not do anything in this game. Jalen Hurts looked pretty decent, but just Tampa Bay was able to shut down the run game. I mean, DeAndre Swift had 34 yards on 10 carries. Did not look good. Jalen Hurts, 250 yards in the air and a touchdown. But that's it. I mean, Tampa Bay looked incredible. Baker Mayfield looked really, really good. 337 yards, 3 touchdowns in this game on just 22 completions. Tampa Bay, man, they get to play Detroit in Detroit. Detroit already beat them earlier this year, so that's going to be a very, very interesting rematch from earlier this year. But yeah, man, I don't know what the answer is for Philly, but I feel like Sirianni has completely lost the locker room, especially over the last 5 6 weeks. I mean, just no response from either side of the ball from him, and just not looking good. So things in Philly are going to be tough. We'll see if Sirianni keeps his job, man. But yeah, just really great game for Tampa. Just Philly is a big mess right now.
Yeah, I think Sirianni's going to get fired. Just he's lost that locker room. He's not. And again, he's not one of those coaches like a Tomlin or a Belichick or someone who's been there for like over 10 years. He's fairly new, so I think he's pretty expendable. They're going to get rid of Sirianni. Might even change up a couple other things. Hurts looked pretty good. He looked all right. Devontae Smith had a big game. But other than that, they just something about this team, man. After they played the 49ers, just defeated, man. Kelsey just retired, so no more Jason Kelsey. And I think he kind of realized that the team pretty much has already hit its peak, and they're going to start probably going a little bit downhill from here. So, yeah, it's going to be tough, man. But Tampa Bay, they did their thing, man. They've been doing pretty good, but I don't think that Detroit's going to have much problem with them come next week. But can't take them lightly. I mean, they can play.
Yeah, Tampa Bay can definitely play, and they obviously showed that. Philly's defense couldn't stop anything they did. But also, you look at what Tampa did to, help defensively. They were sending tons and tons of pressure all game long. Lots of blitzing, stunting. Lions will have their hands full, but we'll get into that, of course, on Thursday's episode. So now, swinging to the NBA, Mike, take it away. We got some power rankings for you, NBA and NHL. So, Mike, yeah, take it away.
Yes, sir. Going to be rolling through the top 10 here from NBA.com on the power rankings here. These are pretty up to date. I think they're like maybe a day or two old from where we are in the season, but pretty up to date here. I'm just going to be going through here and going through each team and what they have. So coming in here at number 10, we have the Miami Heat here, who, Miami's been pretty prevalent here the last few years with, them making the finals and Jimmy Butler and Bam and Eric Spoelstra and that whole group. They are pretty rock solid. They're probably going to be a 5 or a 6 seed, I would assume. Number 10 here, I definitely feel like they're above average. They're always a better team in the playoffs than they are in the regular season. So, they're only 17th on offensive rating right now. That's below average, but 10th in defensive rating. Butler, he's missed some games, but like I said, with him out, they've still been able to pick up the slack. Like I said, Bam Adebayo's been playing great. Tyler Hero, Jaime Jaquez, their rookie, has been doing really well as well. So I think 10's a fine placement for them. Number 9 here, we have the Indiana Pacers, and this one's tough because their best player, Tyrese Halliburton, he's out for a couple weeks with a left hamstring strain, so they have to see how they're going to do without their star. But they have the number 1 offensive rating. It's one of the best in league history at 122 points per game, but they're also one of the worst defensive teams, giving up 119. So they're still winning. They have a 23-16 record here. Halliburton's great. I think they are going to make the playoffs this year after missing the playoffs for at least a few seasons here now. But they look good. They got a lot of good role players that fit around Halliburton pretty well.
Yeah.
I'd just like to see them possibly getting a second star in the future to complement Tyrese.
Right.
He's balling. He's averaging like over 20 with like 12 assists per game. He's insane. He's carrying this offense. Like I said, number 1 offense in basketball. Just the defense, man. They got to get a few more guys who can be more of that 3-and-D type player. Miles Turner's pretty good. at getting blocks and stuff. But other than that, their defense is pretty lackluster. But I like them at number 9.
Yeah.
Number 8.
About that, just real quick, man. Because so obviously, I live here in Indianapolis, and that's all they've been talking about on the sports radio here over the past day or two. Now is just that injury to Halliburton and how that's going to affect the team going forward for the next however long he's out. I don't know exactly how long he's out. Do you at all?
Yeah, so I don't think they've officially given it, but they said they're going to reevaluate after 2 weeks. I think that they're going to give him 2 weeks and evaluate him from there and see if he needs more time off. He should be back within a month, I would say. I mean, it wasn't anything too serious.
No.
Like he pulled his hamstring.
Yeah, it's a tough loss for them, but I think the Pacers should be okay without him. Maybe not as good, but definitely not, starting to lose like crazy either.
Yeah. Number 8, we had the Philadelphia 76ers, 5th on offense, 2nd on defense. So they seem a little bit low here, but I mean, the reason they're dropping is because Embiid has basically been out these last couple weeks. So the 76ers are 3-7 without Embiid this year. He's missed 7 of the last 9 games. But Tobias Harris has stepped up. He's been averaging close to 20. Maxey, though, he's been getting his points, but we can definitely see that Maxey is not a number 1 option. He cannot be a number 1 option. But Embiid's coming back. He played well against Houston last game. So tonight they have Denver, so that's going to be a nice test for him. And Philadelphia, I still think, is going to make the playoffs for sure and probably be a 3 or a 4 seed come playoff time. But yeah, they need Embiid to stay healthy. They're probably going to give him as much rest as he needs so that he's ready to go come playoff time. Number 7 here, we have the Milwaukee Bucks. So the Bucks are number 7. They're number 2 in offensive rating, but number 19 in defensive rating. Milwaukee, I feel like they've been pretty good. I mean, they're 28-12, really strong record. But they still have a ways to go if they want to be that number 1 team in the East like they want to be. They are got the offense clicking. It's just that defense, man. I feel like since they've gotten lowered, losing Drew Holiday and getting lowered, the offense is going to be insane, but the defense is going to take a hit, and you can see that with the ratings there. With Lillard not being that good on defense, Drew Holiday being one of the most underrated defenders in the league. Giannis is still doing his thing. Brook Lopez has been balling out as well. So they still got a pretty good team here, and they are still going to be one of the top teams in the East. Number 6 here, we have the New Orleans Pelicans, 12th in offensive rating, 6th in defensive rating. Yeah, they've kind of come out of nowhere, man. 24-16, solid record. Again, probably a low to mid playoff team. Zion, though, man, he concerns me with all the injury history and his eating problems that he has. But they have a lot of good, solid players: Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, C.J. McCollum. Pelicans got some good players there that can get buckets and got a good core. They just, like I said, Zion scares me because he doesn't play that often, and when he does, he has off-the-court issues. But yeah, I think that New Orleans is a solid team. Probably not a championship contender, but definitely solid. Number 5, one of the hottest teams lately, man, the LA Clippers. 25-14. After acquiring Harden, they started out like 0-6, but then they won like 17 of 20 games. So they've been on fire recently with Harden, Kawhi, Paul George. Westbrook even's done some great in these last few games here. They just look unbeatable right now. They are going crazy, and hopefully they can continue to keep rolling here because they got it figured out right now. Number 4 here, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves. 28 and 11, number 20 on offense, but number one on defense here, and that's going to be, of course, tribute to Rudy Gobert. And Anthony Edwards has been pretty good. He's still pretty much carrying that offense. Cat's been pretty solid this year. Timberwolves, though, have definitely been a big surprise as their team is pretty much the same as last year, but just something about their team this year. They're able to finally put some wins together and definitely look like a top playoff team. Not sure if I'd call them a championship contender just yet, but yeah, they definitely look good. Number 3 here, the defending champions, Denver Nuggets. 28 and 13, 7th on offense and ninth on defense. Of course, they probably got the best player in basketball in Nikola Jokic. He's always going to go for big nights, but I've noticed lately Jokic has been really more distributing the ball than scoring. He's had a few games here recently where he's not scoring a ton of points, but super efficient as always. There are other players like Aaron Gordon, who came back from off the court incident, and then Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, all been doing pretty well. They're doing pretty much what everyone's expecting. Just got to see how they hold it for the playoffs. Number 2 here. This is our first power ranking where they are not at number 1. We have the Boston Celtics at number 2. Number 3 on offense. Number 4 on defense. And, 30-9 record. They're still really dang good. But, yeah, they had an abysmal performance against Milwaukee in the last week slate of games. They were down 37 points at halftime. They just threw in the towel, rested all their starters in the second half. Just abysmal performance, like I said. But they still are looking pretty good besides that one game. Tatum and Brown have been really good. They have Drew Holiday. Porzingis probably got the best team, or one if not the best team on paper, especially in the East, man. I really like Boston. But number 1 here, a new number 1, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, man. Number 4 on offense and number 3 on defense. This is one of my favorite teams in the NBA. They have so many great players. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, top 3 MVP candidate right now. He is on fire. They got a lot of great young stars like Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren. Those guys are ballers as well. They just have such a great young team. Tons of draft picks in the future. They're already doing so well. 27 and 11. No playoff experience yet with this core, so I'm not sure how they're going to fare when it comes playoff time. But, man, I think that Oklahoma City, as long as they don't fuck it up like they did 10 years ago when they had Durant, Westbrook, and Harden all in their prime, as long as they keep this core, this team could be very dangerous for the years to come. And for me, I think they deserve that number 1 spot. They are hooping right now. So, yeah, man, do you have any thoughts on any of these rankings and teams?
Well, obviously with the Pacers, it's unfortunate losing such a pivotal player in their offense. But like I said, I think they'll respond. But outside of that, I mean, I kind of agree with most of this list. Everyone's right around where I would probably put them. So, and that's just me just looking at the standings. Me like, okay, let's see, because obviously I don't watch a lot of basketball. So, you know, I like this list, and yeah. So now we're gonna head over to the NHL. I'm back with my own power rankings this week. Or this time around, so we'll get right into it. So at number 10, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. They're sitting ninth in the league right now overall, 24, 14, and 6. They have been playing some very consistent hockey, and since the break, they've been very, very good. They they're more than likely going to make the playoffs if they keep playing that the way the way they are. They got some questions at goaltending, for goaltending, but outside of that, man, they're they're not bad. Obviously, they're in a wild card spot right now. They could easily get themselves into a divisional spot because just how tight the Metro division is. There's a lot of good teams in that division. Um, but yeah, that's where I have Philly for now. At number 9 is the Edmonton Oilers. They've been insane since about midway through December. Well, really since not December, November, when they fired Chris Knobloch and replaced him with Jay Woodcroft. They've just been insane. They were at the bottom of the league standings, and now they're creeping up towards the top 10 in the league standings. They're they're sitting right now 18th, but they just keep crawling up, and they've only played 39 games, which, if you look at all the teams ahead of them, they're all at least played 41 games outside of LA, which has played 40. So they're a few games behind, but they're right up there in the top 10. I mean, 10 points. 10th place in points right now is Carolina at 53. Edmonton sits at 47. So I mean, they are getting very, very close. And McDavid and Draisaitl just unstoppable over the last really since Christmas break. They've just been putting up insane amount of points each night, and they're just looking really good. At number 8 is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Detroit just had a very nice win over them this past weekend, dropping them down in the standings just a little bit. Detroit obviously looking very good lately too, but they are not in this top 10. That said, Toronto overall has still played very good hockey all season long. They've been, but their defense is still the biggest issue, and what comes with that is goaltending as well. If the Leafs tightened up on their defensive side, I feel like goaltending could pick back up for them to where it was back in early October, where they were getting getting insane, averages from Martin Jones, who was a big meme in San Jose. But yeah, Toronto still a very good team offensively, of course. I mean, they have Austin Matthews, who I still believe leads the league in goals. But defense, that is their biggest issue right now. Number 7, I have the New York Rangers. They were at the very top of my list for a while, but they have just fallen off out of nowhere. Offense can't score. Defense has looked good. Goaltending has been abysmal out of nowhere. Shesterkin has not looked that good in net for them. Their upcoming schedule looks pretty easy. But there's something just not clicking right now offensively with them. They are scoring very, very few goals, and that's what's really costing them games. And number 6, I have Carolina, who's been quite the opposite for the last few weeks. They're just scoring a ton of goals, and that's really their solution to winning games right now. Is they give up a lot of goals, but they also score a lot of goals. And the big issue is just goaltending. They don't have a good goaltender at all. Defense is a slight issue, but it's not 100% on the defense here, just because they're blocking a lot of shots. They're doing a lot of good things defensively. It's just they don't have anyone in net. Antti Ranta has performed very, very bad. Kotikov has been just not looking good at all. And he's a rookie, but they had high hopes for him, and just at the NHL level, he hasn't looked good. But if they can figure out, their goaltending issue, maybe find a goalie before the trade deadline, they'll be a lethal team come the playoffs. At number 5, I have Boston, who've kind of fallen off lately. They're still on top of the Atlantic Division right now, with most of their losses being in overtime, and that's really the difference because Florida has more wins than them, but Florida just has a lot more regulation losses. Boston, obviously, though, they're still a good team, but their big problem right now is just the third period. They just cannot perform in the third period. They're blowing a lot of big leads late in games, but they've also played a pretty difficult schedule since the Christmas break, and it's not getting any easier for them. They just played New Jersey last night. They play Colorado in 2 days from now. They just, they have a pretty tough schedule over the next week or so. And so they have to figure out something in the third period because right now, man, they just can't stop beating themselves with leads. At number 4, I have Colorado. They are just a very consistent team. Their only issue is goaltending. Like with a lot of teams right now, they're struggling with goaltending. But offensively, they're really, really good. Defensively, they've been very solid. There's a couple, question marks at times for them, but overall, they've just been one of the most consistent teams all season long. They haven't been, super flashy. They'll win, 4 or 5 games, and then they lose one, and then they win another 4 or 5 games, and then they lose one. So very consistent, very, very good, but just not at that upper echelon of teams right now. And then the top 3, at number 3, I have Florida. They have been very, very hot as of late. Matthew Tkachuk has been performing a lot better since he kind of just slowed down after a very nice start to the season. He's kind of come back and started to play a lot better. Florida's defense really good, goaltending very, very good. Knight has been incredible for them. And then obviously they have Bobrovsky as well, who's been one of the best goaltenders in the league for a very, very long time, as you obviously know. Florida, man, they've been really, really good. They're on a nice win streak right now. Well, they were on a nice win streak until last night, I believe it was. They dropped a game to Anaheim last night, ending their win streak. But they have Detroit tomorrow night. That's going to be a fun matchup to watch, especially because Detroit is very hot right now as well. At number 2, I have Winnipeg. They're on top of the Central Division. They are insanely good. Hellebuck has been insane this year. It's a matter of whether their defense can really stay as consistent as they've been, because they started off the year defensively not looking good, and Hellebuck was bailing them out of games, and the offense has always been there all season. But now the defense has really started to pick up, and that's why they're starting to win a lot more games as of late, and it's paid off. But the biggest question is can they maintain this level of defense that they've been playing lately? And it's kind of funny too to see Winnipeg where they are right now, on top of the league, of course. On top of the Central Division, Vancouver's on top of the league. Winnipeg, though, second in the league in terms of points percentage. But like last year, they were kind of fighting with Calgary to not make the playoffs. Both teams were trying to not make the playoffs last year. Winnipeg eventually got in, and then over a very quiet offseason for Winnipeg, out of nowhere, they're just insane. Defense has been obviously really good as of late, especially. Um, and then their offense has been one of the best in the entire league this year. It's kind of funny how just the most quiet offseason can bring you so much, success in the NHL, and that's why the NHL to me is still the greatest league when it comes to parity, man. Because you can go from really bad one year to really great the next, unless you're San Jose. Um, and then at number one, of course, we have the San Jose Sharks. No, I'm just kidding. They're fucking ass. If this was a reverse power rankings, they would be at number one. But no, we have Vancouver, of course, on top of the league in terms of points percentage. Um, they've just been insane this year. Plain and simple. Um, Pedersen has been elite. Um, Obviously, you have Quinn Hughes on the blue line, who's one of the best defensemen in the league right now. And he's so young. And he's just getting better each and every game, man. It seems like, because he it, he's near the top of the league in points, especially when it comes to assists. I mean, he's very good there, but what great defenseman isn't? Um, but you know the they don't have really any question marks. I mean, goaltending's been there, defense has been there, offense has been there. Their biggest question right now is how much and how long do you re-sign Pedersen for? Because obviously his contract's up at the end of the year, and if he keeps playing the way he's been playing, he's gonna deserve a very nice long contract that pays very well. Is he gonna be up there with the McDavid and Matthews contracts? Hell no, but he'll be up there for sure. But yeah, Vancouver, man, just insane this entire year. They've been on top of their division pretty much all year, outside of the little bit where Vegas was leading it. But they've taken over since about mid-November, when Vegas kind of had a small meltdown, and ever since then they haven't let up. So, do you got any thoughts about this list?
Nah, it's pretty accurate to what I was assuming. I remember Boston and New York, of course, were at the top last time, but they've fallen back a little bit. Vancouver's still hot. Florida's up there. Winnipeg as well. Makes sense on the top teams here. A lot of them with some of the best goaltending or young players up and coming.
Yeah, it's insane, and right now, if there was one team in each conference that I would not want to play in the first round right now, it'd be Edmonton and Florida. It would be, because as good as Winnipeg and Vancouver are, um, they are, everyone kind of knows their game. They're kind of screwed right now. Florida and Edmonton, man, they are surging up the rankings and up the standings. So I would not want to play either of them in the first round of the playoffs right now, just personally, just because of how embarrassing or how embarrassed you will feel after that first round's over, because of just how good those two teams are right now. Florida especially, man, they are like insanely hot right now, outside of that loss to Anaheim last night. But yeah, that is your NHL power rankings for this week. Thursday's episode will, of course, preview the divisional rounds of the playoffs for the NFL. If anything, newsworthy comes up in the NFL, we'll talk about that as well. We're gonna get more into the NHL and the NBA as those seasons are starting to really get heated up. NHL is at their just past the midway point for about most of their teams. There's only a few teams under 41 games right now. So yeah, we're at that point. NHL All Star games coming up very soon, so we'll get into that as well. The teams are selected. I still believe the fan vote's still open, so if you haven't voted, go ahead and vote right now. You get 10 votes a day on the NHL.com to vote there. It's always fun for that. They released the All Star game jerseys, and Mike, have you seen them?
Nah,
Oh my god, they are the ugliest fucking jerseys I've ever seen in my life. Hold on, let me send them to you and get your reaction because they are really bad. Let me find them. Is the link? Just give everyone your reaction to them because they are horrible.
bro, what?
Right.
The logo is just ugly.
The logo, the whole design, the color
The
scheme,
sleeves look
it,
ugly too.
it's so bad. It is so bad.
Someone says this a Carl's Jr. in the NHL collab.
Someone in
What the?
in a NHL group chat I'm in said
Oh my
it looks like the NHL All Star Game powered by Kraft mac and cheese.
god. For real, someone said in the comments of this one too. Where is this game? Legoland? Like it just looks like
Yeah,
cartoonish. Like it just
it looks so bad. If you haven't seen them, people just go. It's on NHL's Twitter and Instagram and all their other social media. Man, it is so embarrassingly bad. Adidas completely missed the mark on it. They really did, and this is why I say Adidas makes the worst hockey jerseys, and they just keep continuing to prove it every day. With that one, man. But yeah. So, anyways, guys, rate, review, subscribe, help us out. Let us know. What more content you want to see. We're gonna start obviously pushing out a lot more NHL and NBA content, especially as those seasons start to wrap up, and once we get into the playoffs for those, that's gonna be basically our entire focus once the playoffs for both those leagues start. MLB spring training is going to start in a couple months, so we'll get into that as well. The offseason hasn't been all too crazy for the MLB, so not a whole lot to talk about there. And obviously, NFL coaching, college football coaching hires as well that we'll get into. We'll start talking about that as well. But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys on Thursday.